This is Behind the Mic with Brad Dalius.
From Kings Cove inside the Toyota Sports Center in El Segundo, California, it's Behind the Mic. Brad Dalius, Keith Jackson hanging out on this Thursday evening, March the 22nd, 2018. The Sweet 16 is rolling along this evening from over at Staples Center here in Los Angeles, also down in Atlanta, Georgia as well. Loyola Chicago has already punched their ticket to the Elite Eight, Keith. The Ramblers are moving on once again for the first time since 1963. They're going to be in the Elite Eight. The Cinderella run continues there. Nevada, their run comes to an end. How about Texas A&M? They look so good against North Carolina. My Aggies. Big-time disappointment tonight as they fell earlier this evening to Michigan. They got blown out as the Wolverines look like they're back in their top-tier form as they're on to the Elite Eight as well. Lots to get into this evening. Welcome on in. Big crowd on hand here at Kings Cove. Listen online, BehindTheMicShow.com. You can also download the Behind the Mic app, and be sure to check out our podcast later on iHeartRadio. Keith, how we doing?
It's great, man. It's a great day for basketball. March Madness started all over again. And it goes back to what you're saying about the game, the two games I just finished playing. You know, Loyola Chicago versus Nevada, what a game. I mean, down the stretch, Nevada kept fighting, they just came up short. And, you know, and Loyola Chicago is just a great team. They play well together. I don't see any, like, NBA stars that can go on that team. They just all have the same level of play. They play the same level of play. They're a hard-nosed, like, blue-collar type of team. They run their stuff to the tee, and they put out a gutsy win. And then for Nevada, I mean, the two twins, I think they played their way into the NBA. They had a great showcase.
Those guys are unbelievable.
Showcasing of themselves, and it was a great time for the program. I mean, and the coach only playing 6 players. I mean, wow, those guys to play that amount of minutes, 39, 40 minutes a game, and only have a rotation of 6 players. That's incredible what they did. So hats off to both programs. Loyola Chicago for advancing, Nevada for making it to the Sweet 16. Way to represent their conference. But Texas A&M, I mean,
like I said, they looked so good last weekend, right? They come out and they just get the doors blown off of them.
You see what I'm doing right now? I'm shaking my head.
It's unbelievable. You can't. That's what I said last night. You can't predict this thing at this point. Who would have thought it?
I mean, you talk about, I think they must have left their game in Kansas, in Charlotte.
Yeah.
They must have left their game in Charlotte. I mean, I'm serious, because they got beat down from the start to finish.
99-72. I
mean, they literally couldn't do anything right. And to get beat down like that in the Sweet 16, man. I mean, look, I know they're happy it's great that they made it to the Sweet 16, but you got to have a better showing when you make it to the come on. Ranking wise, and we're not going off there. I mean, they're 7-3. That's not far off. A 7 seed versus a 3 seed. That's not far off. So I thought they could have had a better showing. It looks like they celebrated a little bit too hard and weren't focused on the game. And Michigan has shown me that Michigan is on a mission. Like, their whole thing is like, I feel we have a great opportunity of winning this all. And that's the type of swagger they have when they're playing out there. And you look at them and I'm thinking like this team they're not big. They're not a real big team. But
No,
they're
they're not.
versatile type of team. They're very methodical what they do. They get to the rim. They can score any type of way they want to score. And it's just like when you look at them and they have this swagger like we're gonna come out of here and we're gonna win it all. So they look like a dangerous team to me. So
They do. Michigan, what can you say? They came out red hot in this game. They were 7 of 10, I believe, from beyond the arc in the first half, just killing it from downtown. That really got them to that big lead. They really stole a game against Houston in the second round. That's what it comes down to for me. They stole a game there, and to me, tonight, they really started to get back to how they were playing down towards the end of the stretch run at the end of the regular season and how they ultimately went on to win the Big Ten championship with that style of play like we saw tonight. When they play like this, they're a Final Four team. There's no question about it in my book. Easily a Final Four team, and they very well could be on their way to San Antonio if they play like this again in the next round. We'll see. But yeah, Texas A&M just very, very disappointing. How you look that good against North Carolina and then that bad today, got to give some credit, obviously, to the Wolverines, but still, you got to put up a better performance than that. I mean, almost giving up 100 points in the Sweet 16, that's pretty rough.
North Carolina has to be kicking themselves in the foot right now. I mean, stabbing themselves in the heart, kicking themselves in the butt. I mean, to sit back and watch this game, Texas A&M, and the showing they had tonight, you're like, how did we lose to this team?
But they didn't just lose, though, Keith. I mean, they got blown out.
Blown out, too. But again,
it's upside down.
How does this happen? You know, you start to think about that, and like, what was it? And
it's game by
today,
game.
The chips didn't fall.
They did not fall. It's absolutely game by game. That's why you love the single elimination tournament format, because just because a certain team blows out someone one day, the very next day they could get blown out.
Yeah.
You just don't know. I mean, best of 7 series, best of 5 series. The better team's probably going to win majority of the time. We've seen that throughout history, but you just never know with single elimination. That's the beauty of the tournament. Meanwhile, Kansas State and Kentucky, the game that followed the Nevada-Loyola Chicago matchup down there in Atlanta, is underway. Kansas State got off to a 13-1 advantage to start this game. Kentucky has narrowed the gap. It's now 13-10 in the first half. And right down the road from here, it is. It is. And right down the road from here at Staples Center, Gonzaga and Florida State are just underway as well. So, first 2 games in the books tonight. The second 2 games now underway as well. Give us a call tonight at 213-261-7491. We're also going to get into Sam Darnold's USC Pro Day. That happened yesterday in the rain over on campus. We'll talk about it. Also, a lot of NFL free agency stuff to get to. The Rams, Chargers, etc. We'll cover all that tonight. And we got to talk about Tiger Woods and how well he's been playing here recently. I know you've been following it, Keith. Another top 5 finish at Bay Hill last weekend at the Arnold Palmer Invitational. Vegas, they named him the favorite last week based off of how he did that first round against on Thursday. So there's a lot to talk about with Tiger and where he's at right now in the golf world.
Yeah, it is. And just to key on just a little bit, I just want to say this, a side note. You know, the Lakers are playing tonight.
They are playing. I know, right?
Nobody's talking about it right now.
They're in New Orleans. They're taking on the Pelicans.
Which is great. They're up right now 125 to 121. And I mean, that's no defense out there. But just to let you Laker fans out there know who probably not interested in March Madness, but the NBA is playing right now.
Too, they might be interested. Yeah. They might be interested in Gonzaga, or maybe they were in Nevada. I mean, at this point.
Well, I'll just say I have to get to it. I mean, March Madness is just it takes over everything
easily,
and NCAA it just takes over everything. It's these guys. What I love about it the most, I mean, even the experience playing in it, from my experience just playing in it, everybody goes all out, because they don't want their season to end. And they really do. They really play their hearts out when they play in the NCAA tournament. Because you really don't want your season to end. Because then what you start to see, and it's like that bond. All these guys had winning programs. There's some of them. And then the ones who got in that think, they shouldn't have got him. People think they shouldn't have got him, but in their mind, they feel they should. They did everything they needed to do to win. It's like those up and downs to get to this point. It's great to see. A lot of people in the NBA. I go back to this. A lot of people in the NBA may have played with programs that's some of those guys never been to the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
So you got to think about that. It's really an honor to get in, and then to see what you're seeing out here and witnessing right now with these programs and these teams playing their heart out. I mean, Loyola Chicago, what a story. To be just a part of that and a part of that storyline of, we not even having a chance, thinking you're not going to win one game. You're just happy just to be there, but you're really making a deep run. They remind me of, they're getting close to reminding me of George Mason.
Yeah.
When George Mason made it to the Final Four, and it could be that, you think about it. But
George Mason, were they an 11 seed?
They were, I don't know what seeds. I
feel like they were.
I want to say 11th or 8th seed.
VCU was an 11 in 2011.
Okay.
We know that for sure.
I think George Mason was like an 8th seed, weren't they?
I want to say they were double digits.
Okay.
And you're right, though. It's so comparable to what they were able to do at this point. To me, the thing that jumps out about Loyola Chicago is that this is not a fluke team.
No.
They only lost 5 games all year. They're just not the marquee name.
And that's the dangerous thing. That's what you have to look at. A team that, in Division I basketball, if you can win 20 games, you're a big deal, and you're a dangerous team. Not too many teams, to get a 20-win or 20-plus season, you're a dangerous team. You have to respect that team. So, they're definitely respectable. I think all the teams that are playing now are 20-plus.
Georgia Mason was an 11th seed, by the way,
okay,
in 2006. So,
wow.
it's right. The comparisons are obvious at this point. There's so many of them. But, to me, Loyola Chicago can run with anybody on offense. The way they play collectively and just how red hot they've been. I told you off the air, until they lose, I'm going with them the rest of the way.
So you're picking them to beat Kentucky or Kansas, whoever they play?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
It's pretty bold. But,
it's
not
they hit the
far-fetched,
shots.
It's not far-fetched. They show up.
They do, and it's always someone different. Against Tennessee, tonight, it was Marcus Banks hitting the big shot.
Yeah.
You don't know that, and that's the thing that's difficult to defend defensively. You could try and double team someone who you think is really hot for them, but just it opens up someone else who can knock down a big shot. It's a very tough team, and they just everything is clicking right now. It's so hard to defend a team like that and to knock them off. If it's going to be close, they're a team that you want to get earlier in the game to get a lead on, because if it's close or if they have a lead, it's going to be very, very difficult with the way they shoot to try and overpower them at the end.
Yeah. Agree.
Plus, they got Sister Jean.
Yeah.
That's the good luck charm.
Sister G, man. I'll be going to Sister G every night. Sister G, we're not going to go party. We're not going to do anything. We're going to go to Mass in the morning. I want to know what's the outcome of the next thing. Sister G could be the next Miss Cleo. Remember Miss Cleo?
Yeah.
Terry Reading? That's Sister G.
She's starting to fill that position really well. It's just crazy. 98 years young. She was there for the 63 champions team.
Wow. She's seen it all.
Really has.
She knows her basketball, I'll tell you that much. Coaching better than some of these other coaches out here.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt. Did a better job than Tony Bennett did.
Yes.
the cheap shots continue at Tony Bennett, but how could you resist at this point? It's 17-15, Kansas State on top of Kentucky. They're coming up on 8 minutes to play in Atlanta.
And the Zags right now are
Gonzaga and Florida State.
Started the 6-5 race close game starting off in L.A.
We talked about that last night with Peter Woodburn from SB Nation. That one should be great. We expect that to come down to the wire tonight, as we do for Kansas State, Kentucky as well.
Yeah.
2 great games, and to me, just 2 toss-ups. It's very hard to pick who potentially could win these games at this point. It's very difficult. Besides, like I said, to me, Loyola Chicago, I'm locked in with them. But outside of that, I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know.
I'm still picking Duke. I just think Duke look, they're going to have a tough game tomorrow against Syracuse. I can't wait for that game. I think it's going to be a great game to watch. I'm still picking Duke to win it all. I'm interested in that Kansas-Clemson game. I think that's going to be a battle.
Yes.
That's going to be an interesting game. I think Duke's biggest you know what's crazy? We sit up here and say what's going to be their biggest competition, and then it ends up not being the biggest competition. They end up blowing them out by like 30 or 40 points. So I don't know who's going to be their biggest competition.
But that's nothing new, though, right?
It's not.
You know what I mean?
I don't know.
I feel like we say this a lot of times, like in past tournaments.
Yes, we say that all the time.
You know, Duke or Carolina or Kansas, they've met their match on this particular evening, and they're going to get tested, and then, like you said, they wind up blowing them out.
Yeah. I mean, Texas A&M really, really shocked me today.
Like, who had that tonight? Who had Michigan at one
Texas
point
A&M.
beating them soundly, and they were almost up at one point by 30?
Yes.
I mean, get out of here. Who had that tonight?
I absolutely.
I thought last night, I was like, to me, Texas A&M, if they played like the way they did against Carolina, they could maybe win the whole thing.
Yeah.
How do we go from that to this?
To getting your tails kicked in.
It's the madness of the tournament, if nothing else.
It is. It's been a great tournament. West Virginia, who knows? West Virginia may beat Villanova tomorrow.
It could happen.
Who knows?
I'm not as big on Villanova as most people are.
I'm not either.
They have fantastic guard play in the backcourt. There's no denying that. They've been great. They have probably the best backcourt in the country. I don't think, though, that this team is necessarily better than the team who won it all in 2016.
No, I don't either.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think so. I mean,
they're small. They're too small.
They are a small team, and that doesn't mean that a small team can't win a championship.
They're not small and fast, though. You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
To me, when I watch Duke is a tall team, long and lanky, but they can get up the floor pretty quick.
They have the makeup.
Yes, and when you play against something like that, it's tough to beat. So, I think Texas Tech is just as good as Villanova.
Yeah.
So.
It's again like we had talked about last night. You really have to reseed at this point in time, and like when you look at Villanova versus West Virginia, for example, it's more like a 2 versus 3.
Yeah.
Like Kansas versus Clemson. There's not as much of a gap between some of these teams, and it doesn't reflect the seeds in some instances.
Yeah.
Now tonight, of course, Michigan somewhat disproves that against Texas A&M, but that could be an anomaly. That could be the outlier. We'll have to see.
Yeah. I'll say, what do you think? Do you think if Loyola Chicago if they go the same distance as George Mason, who's the better team? Who's the better 11 seed between the two? And why? The
better in the sense of the storyline, the Cinderella run, or just better of quality?
The quality of the team.
Quality of the team, I think it's no question. I think it's the Ramblers. Really? I think just again, they only lost 5 games all year. This is a top tier. This is a team that probably could be ranked in the AP rankings a lot higher than what they are. They just have the stigma of being a mid-major small school.
Yeah.
To me, that's a large part of it. Offensively, they're just sound on offense, and when they need to get the stops on defense, they've proven that this tournament. To me, they're deeper. Now, if you want to talk about who had the more magical run, to me, we talked about this. We had the buy or sell segment a few weeks ago on was George Mason the best Cinderella run in the history of the tournament. I still think it is because that was just so magical in what they were able to do. I mean, no one had that. The diehards, the college basketball junkies who really follow the regular season night in and night out, they're aware of Loyola Chicago, the Seth Davises of the world. They were somewhat high on them in this tournament that they could be a sleeper team.
Yeah.
No one was doing that in 2006 with George Mason. No one had that.
No.
So to me, and remember how good that UConn team was that year?
Yeah.
And they beat them in the Elite Eight, and
they did.
It was just upset after upset after upset. I think they also beat North Carolina that year. That was the year after Carolina won the championship in 2005. So they had a more difficult road. It's hard to compare, obviously, different roads in different years. But with this, I mean, again, they're in a region, Loyola Chicago, that is historic in the sense of a 16 beat a 1. And it's the first time ever in the history of the tournament in any region, Keith, that there is no 1 through 4 seed that made it to the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
So really, this path would be a lot easier than a George Mason.
No, I have to give it to you. I would have picked George Mason too, for sure.
Yeah.
But looking at Loyola Chicago, what they're doing now, I mean, if they're picked to go to the Final Four, Vegas wise, I would have to go with it as well. I don't know. It's going to be a tough. Right now, this tournament's built for a bunch of surprises.
Absolutely.
And it's a close game right now with Kansas and Kentucky, so you don't know what's going to happen there. But the thing is, I'll say this: if you're not blowing out Loyola Chicago, then they're going to keep it close. They're going to find a way to win.
Agreed. That's what I said earlier. They're going to find a way.
Yeah. So that's how That's how I look at it as. It's like if you can't blow them out, then they're going to find a way to win. That's how dangerous they are as a team. So hats off to them. I'm very excited. I'm excited about the Gonzaga game that's going on right now. And looks like Florida State is running away with them right now. So we'll see what happens.
16-8, like you said, Keith, right now. 13 minutes to play in the first half. Still a lot of time, obviously, before the intermission. But getting back to what you were saying there just a moment ago, do you think that with all the upsets we've seen and with the mid-major, quote-unquote, schools playing like better basketball, being a more solid, complete team, i.e. the Ramblers, is this more of a tide is turning in college basketball, looking towards the future? Will we see more of this down the line? Or is this year more so the outlier?
I think we'll see more of this down the line. You know why? Because the thing is when you have mid-major schools like this, and you got to look at it like this. The top-tier schools going to get the top players in the country, right?
Of course.
Zion Williams is going to Duke next year.
Yep.
Best player in the country. Then you can go down the list of the players as well. So when you look at these mid-major schools and you look at those high school players who are like 5 stars, right? 5 stars. Some of those 4.5, some of those 3-star recruits are gonna go mid-major.
Yeah.
And they want to go mid-major, but then they don't know what mid-major school to go to. Well, then this is the time. This is how those mid-major schools showcase themselves. When you go to things like this, like the University of Maryland, Baltimore County.
UMBC.
UMBC has been a historical story, right? I guarantee you sometimes you don't have to go and recruit people. They just come to you.
Yeah, when you get good,
they will come to you.
Absolutely.
And so I think their program has another turning point where now they're going to get recruits to come to them, and they're going to be a legitimate program. Same thing like the Davises, the Creightons of the world. Remember, those are Cinderella teams too. They're major schools, and they're now big time schools. Steph Curry put Davidson on the map. Creighton, you had McDermott.
We see them in the tournament now every year. They're not winning yet.
They're not, but
they're making it. They're dancing.
And then you think about this, Missouri. Missouri they're still a big school, but are they known for their basketball? No. They have the best high school player in the country go to and commit to their school. Michael Porter Jr. He got hurt, was fortunate, but how they wheeled him in, they got his brother. His brother was there. He wanted to play with his brother. He went to Missouri. And so when you look at things like that, those what puts your programs on the map. Seton Hall used to be a Cinderella team. They were still in, back in the day. And then you look at the other teams, South Dakota State, things like that. They'll start to get better players. So these mid-major schools are coming up, and I think after a while, NCAA's going to have to do something about how they're letting these bigger schools in and then this mid-major. Because I'll tell you this, I look at this, St. Mary's and Gonzaga, right? Gonzaga was a Cinderella team. Now Gonzaga's known as a major program, right?
Yep.
Big-time school to go to play basketball. Gonzaga was ranked in the top 10 this past season, right? In the AP polls. But there was another team in there at the West Coast Conference, in their conference, that was in the top 25 AP polls, and that was St. Mary's Gales. St. Mary's loses to Gonzaga. 2 ranked teams play each other in the West Coast Conference Championship. St. Mary's loses to them, so Gonzaga gets the bid, automatic bid. So you mean to tell me that if St. Mary's beat Gonzaga, then Gonzaga wasn't going to get in the tourney?
Yeah, see, that's why that one just doesn't make any sense at all.
It doesn't make any. That's what I'm saying. And they're ranked in the top 10. But in a way, it feels like, wow, they maybe not going to be able, because look at St. Mary's. St. Mary's beat everybody. They played their schedule was just as even as Gonzaga's, and they were in the top 25 AP polls. And how they not get in? They in the NIT.
It's crazy how a Syracuse gets in over a St. Mary's with everything you just outlined there and everything we know. It's just beyond me.
Yeah.
But we know why that happens, and it's due in part because of reputation and school size and where they've been at through history. It shouldn't be the case, but that is how it currently is laid out.
That's how it's laid out.
And USC, the big problem, Pac-12.
Yep. I mean, Pac-12 right now has to be kicking themselves in the foot, and they're just saying, wow. Like, not a great showing in the NCAA tournament. And part of that is because, to me, I feel you didn't have the right teams in there. I think, okay, Arizona was in, but let's be real about it. Arizona wasn't going to do well. We saw that they're going to be an early exit after the FBI allegations. Sean Miller leaving the school, getting had a suspension. We'll say a suspension. It wasn't a suspension, but decided they had told him he couldn't coach that game.
More or less.
Games. At the end of the season, then they bring him back. That's just a huge distraction. That whole allegation FBI is not over.
You have to almost give Arizona an asterisk.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
it just separate them from the rest of the conference at this point for what happened this particular year.
Exactly.
With everything that's going on.
And then you look at it, and then USC. I mean, USC, I just don't look. They had to begin. They nipped it in the bud early in the season with Tony Bland. Before this even season started, it was still football season when that thing came out.
Yeah, it was.
Tony Bland,
way back in September.
Yeah, Tony Bland did some shady things in the program, and they released him. FBI had things on him, and then allegedly had some things on him. And then you had the player that was supposedly involved in it decided he's not going to play. He was a sophomore, so. And then you look at it, it's like, well, how does USC not get in? Well, I think it does have something to do with that. And because there's no reason that they went to the Pac-12 tournament championship and still not get in. And, so you look at it, I think they have to, like, when they do this thing and these picks and committees and things like that, if you got a team that's in a mid-major school and you got they have two mid-major teams that are in the top 25 AP polls, and regardless of what happens, if those two teams meet up in the championship, they got to be in the tournament. Either you put them in the 64 or you put one in the first four.
Yeah.
But you got to put them both in, because that's just not right. That then you go ahead and you go to the Big Ten or the ACC and you throw 7 teams into the tournament, and they're not all 7 teams are not deserving of it.
And the problem with that is that it would have almost been better to demonstrate your point if Syracuse would have lost in the first 4.
Yeah.
But the fact that they're in the Sweet 16, and obviously if they keep winning, it only backs and underscores the point of the selection committee that they're like, yep, we can puff out our chest. We got it right. Syracuse, they should have been in, and it proves it. So it only hurts your theory, which I agree with. Syracuse should not have been in the tournament. No. We all know that. They shouldn't have been in. They got lucky to get in. And they're showing what you can do with that extra chance if given. But it doesn't correct the original problem where St. Mary's should be in, USC should be in, the teams we just talked about here. And they just have to spread it out. And maybe, you can't look at what Syracuse is doing right now because, like I said, it doesn't help to prove this point. But a Loyola Chicago, that helps in their performance. A UMBC being historic, that obviously helps as well. And the list goes on.
But look at it.
Mid-major schools.
Look at it. Loyola Chicago, right? You go to their schedule. Loyola Chicago, had they lost, they had their first game. When you look at their schedule in their tournament, right? Had they lost to, here goes the game right here, Bradley. They played Bradley. They almost lost to Bradley. Then they play Illinois State, right? And that's in their conference. And they throttled them, but they almost lost to Bradley, right? We wouldn't be knowing nothing about Loyola Chicago.
I know. That's the crazy thing.
And that's what I'm saying. And that's what I'm going at. It's like you don't know anything about none of these teams. And they lost to Bradley. They lost early in the year in their league, 69-67.
That's similar to UMBC losing to Albany earlier in the regular season.
Exactly.
Getting crushed.
We wouldn't even talk. We wouldn't be talking about these teams right now. Wouldn't have heard about them and how great their program is. And I just think that there needs to be something different. Like if there's two teams that are deserving of being in there in the conference, deserving to be in the NCAA tournament, you got to put them in, man. You should do that. So that's my point.
What are the parameters? I mean, as like if you're going to get a team in, what are the parameters that they should be in versus someone who's not? Like, you know what I mean? Like, obviously, the automatic bids to the conference champions, conference tournament champions.
Yeah.
We know that. Then you have the 24, 25 at-large bids that go out.
I think what you have to look at is
how do you separate it?
You have to go by strength of schedule. But then you have to. I think it has to be an equal thing. Like you have to go down the list, and you got to look at not just the number of games they've won. Like you got to compare how many games this team wins compared to this team. If this team, mid-major's not going to play as many ranked teams during the season as a team in the ACC conference. It's not going to happen, right?
Right.
But what you gotta look at is you gotta say whatever opponent that team in the mid-major's playing, you gotta look at the other team with their opponent, who their opponent played that was ranked. If their opponent played another team that's ranked and is close, then that's how you kind of dictate. It was like, okay, well they should be in over this team. You get what I'm saying?
I do.
And then if it's still like a close thing, like type of thing like that. Then you can go off to the amount of wins compared to winnings, and you can go about the amount of wins, and that should be it. But there should be also something like an at-large bid or something like that, something like a pre-tournament where it's like they have the first four, which is great. But if you got two teams that are just dead on. And you're having problems if they're squeezing in, then you should have those two teams battle it out with each other. Those two teams there should be something in venue where they play against each other.
This is why I like computers. And if you compare it to football, I always liked the BCS because they got it right.
Yeah.
Because it was totally unbiased. And although I think the NCAA tournament is, as I've said plenty of times on this show, I think it's the best tournament in all of sports. There obviously are some things that can be improved on a bit, and that's with the selection process. And I just think that a computer, it's unbiased, it's better than humans making these decisions because there's bias. There's always going to be bias. I'm sure there's bias to Syracuse.
Yep.
And, the list goes on with that to different schools throughout the years that have gotten in over other deserving schools that were left out.
Yeah. I totally agree. I think the computers will solve the problem as well. Because, you have a lot of people who are in the committee who are probably from the East Coast, from the ACC, have played in those type of conferences.
Right. Played, coached, athletic
director.
Exactly.
And they go and they represent it, So it's the thing that's going to be ongoing for years that we're going to be talking about still. I don't think anything's going to change from it, but it really does, to me, suck when you see a Big Sky Conference team, Montana State, get in, right? Like they can be the lowest seed in the Big Sky Conference, and the team is Eastern Washington is probably, and I'm just using it as an example, is the favorite to win. They're in the 1 seed, and they get knocked out after they had a great season, and Montana State gets into the tournament because they won the conference. It's like, how we just write them off like that?
It's crazy. I know USC, how well they played down the stretch. That's the example out here in LA. Came up just a little short to Arizona in the Pac-12 title game. Out they go. It's a tough way to go, but that's how it rolls right now. We'll take a break here on Behind the Mic. We're coming back with more March Madness talk. Kansas State up 27-20 at Kentucky. They're coming up on 3 minutes to play before the half. Gonzaga and Florida State also battling it out over at Staples Center. Both of those games, we'll continue discussion on that. We'll keep you updated, and we'll also get into NFL free agency talk. A little Rams discussion as well coming up in just a bit. It's Behind the Mic from Kings Cove inside the Toyota Sports Center.
Our military service members volunteer to protect us in the most dangerous places around the world. They step up. And when they are severely ill or injured, returning to their families is only the beginning of their long road home. Beyond all the hospitals and doctors and surgeries they need just to survive, they also deserve whatever they need to truly live. All the in-home care and day-to-day help they need to live independently, on their own terms. Wounded Warrior Project long-term support programs were established to provide these brave men and women whatever they need to continue their fight for independence, at no cost, for life. So many of them need us, and it's time for a grateful nation to step up. Find out how you can do your part at findwwp.org.
It took me a long time to be able to say Chandler has cancer, because that is such a scary word. St. Jude takes care of absolutely everything. And knowing that we don't have to pay for all of the medical expenses, that's huge.
St. Jude allowed me to focus on being a mom to Bryce. And sometimes I'm just in awe of the impact St. Jude has, not only on this community, but the world.
St. Jude is uniquely positioned to advance the cures of pediatric cancer, I think better than any other institution in the world. The contributions make a big difference.
Donors are important to us because you get the feeling that you have a team behind you. We have the resources and we have the focus. And so if St. Jude doesn't do it, who will?
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Finding cures. Saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
We all come together and stand together to serve our veterans. We invest in the latest technology.
We take the time to train the next generation of doctors and nurses. We work together to make sure we heal their bodies and their minds.
This is our mission. More than 300,000 of us working as one, together with families and loved ones. No matter where they live in this country, we'll be there.
We stand strong, united. Stand with us in caring for our veterans.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick and proud aunt. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing. But not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. 1 in 6. That little girl sitting alone at the playground, she can't play like the other kids. She doesn't have the energy because she's hungry. School lunch will be her only meal today. It breaks my heart that this is the reality in our country, but it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste. This food is then provided to families and children in need. Being a kid should be about using your imagination, learning, and having fun. These children shouldn't have to miss out on simply being a kid because they're hungry. To find out how you can help end childhood hunger in your community, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Behind the Mic with Brad Dalius.
Take us with you on the go. Download the official Behind the Mic app if you've not already done so. If you want to weigh in on any of the conversations tonight, March Madness, NFL free agency, Rams talk, which we'll get into here in just a little bit, give us a call. The number is 213-261-7491. It's 213-261-7491. Back inside Kings Cove now. Brad and Keith hanging out on this Thursday night. Kansas State is up 30-25 over Kentucky. They're just under a minute to play in the first half. Gonzaga has made it close now. They're only down by a couple to Florida State as those two teams roll along in the first half over at Staples Center. The winner of that one will take on Michigan Saturday night. as things are starting to, shape up a bit here now as we're getting close to the Elite Eight. Loyola Chicago with a big victory earlier this evening, taking out Nevada. The Ramblers are rolling on to the Elite Eight themselves. And big games tomorrow night as well. We've been talking about that Syracuse-Duke matchup, Kansas and Clemson. The Midwest region has been chalk for the most part, considering if you look at the tournament as a whole, things have gone according to plan there. And I mentioned earlier how, outside of Loyola Chicago, I'm having a hard time picking games, but I will pick Syracuse and Duke. We were talking about it last night.
Yeah.
I feel the zone is too much at this point for what Syracuse is putting out there.
Brother, here you go again.
I'm telling you.
Here you go again, Brad.
They are running it to a T, and the Jim Boeheim philosophy is really just paying off. It's paying huge dividends, and plus also the fact that he always fouls, as we probably heard them say a million times in the broadcast against Michigan State. Boeheim, what does he do? He always fouls at the end.
Yeah.
And it makes sense to play the percentages. They are just a team right now that is doing just enough to win these games, but the difference is the coaching, in my opinion. That's how, a team who just gets into the tournament and they're able to win close games, get out of the first four in Dayton, beat TCU, they're able to get past Michigan State. To me, that's just coaching.
It's a little bit of that.
It is. You have to execute,
it's
obviously.
It's definitely.
I think it's a huge part of it.
Boeheim's known for his 2-3 zone. He's done it all year. He lives and dies by it. And it's either you learn this or you sit on the bench. And so he has.
You better learn it, right?
Yeah, you better learn it.
You want to play.
And if you want to learn how to play a 2-3 zone the correct way, then you watch Jim Boeheim. You watch his team. And because they're going to play it the correct way. They play it high. What he likes is long, athletic players, and long, tall, athletic players that can cover it, put their hands up and cover the lanes, the passing lanes. And he plays it high, and it's a great way the way they play it. However, you are going up against probably the best coach in college basketball, whose name is Coach K. And if anybody can figure something out, it's him. And you know what? We had this conversation yesterday. I want to hear from you people out here. I want you to call in, and I want to know, which side are you on? Are you on my side or Brad's side? Who do you agree with? Is Syracuse the team that's going to upset Duke, or is Duke the one team that's going to advance? Because personally, I think Duke's going to advance. I think this game will not be close. I think Duke wins by at least 10 or plus. I say 15 points. I say Duke wins by 15. Now, and the reason I'm going, this is my reason why. It's not defensively. It's offensively. And Syracuse does not play good off. They don't have a great offense. I have Gorsuch. They don't have a great offense. They can't move the ball. They're not a great free throw shooting team as well. They're probably the worst in the ACC conference.
And they don't pretend to be.
And they just go off of their athleticism and push the ball up. And that's why I think that at the end of the day, if they foul and they put Grayson Allen or somebody, Marvin Bagley, all these guys in the line, they're going to knock down their free throw because they're all 70% to 80% free throw shooters.
If it gets to that type of game, you're right.
Yeah.
They'll knock it down. That's not really what Syracuse wants to do. If they can keep it really low scoring like they've been, I think it plays into their favor, but they have to have a lead. They're going to have a lead here and just play similar to
you got to see where they're at.
Yeah, of course. You got to see where they're at. Now, of course, they were down to TCU, or they didn't play well at the end of the half in that round of 32 against TCU. They were able to correct the problems at the half and came out stronger. And then against Michigan State, obviously, they played it consistently how they wanted to play their game the majority of the time. And obviously they got aided by probably a little luck from the Spartans just being god-awful, missing their last 14 shots. But they were able to stick to the script, and that's what you have to do in these games, and you cannot get away from your plan. They know it. They're all on the same page. That comes from the top in coaching, and that's why they're here in this position.
Yeah, well, look, it's going to be a great game. If you're going to see the battle of the zones. Coach K played. In the beginning of the season, I believe he played a little man, and then he realized that this is his own team. What I have, I got 3 bigs, 3 6'10" guys in the back end. I'm playing zone, and it's no reason they're gonna have to figure out how to match up to us, and that's the way they play. And they had a great. They're playing it great right now. He's actually implementing Jim Boeheim's zone. I mean, that's what how he's playing it.
What did you guys play at Northridge?
We played we played man to man, but we also had an amoeba. When we beat UCLA, we had this amoeba 1-3-1 zone. And what it was basically was it was a 2-3 at the top of the key, but when it got to the sides, it was a 1-3-1.
Interesting.
So,
do guys like that going back and forth? Do the guys? Does it mess with, like, for example, if man to man is going great, and you guys decide to get away from it because you're playing to a certain other teams to try and somewhat expose them? Does that kind of mess with guys sometimes?
It does, but it's all about matchups. Like, if you can, like, I'll give you an instance. I also coached, and I remember we had a girls. I coached varsity girls basketball and boys, but on our girls team, this year we went to state. We played against this team that we played every year. They were a rival team. They knew our stuff inside out. We knew their stuff inside out. So we were known for playing zone defense. That's what we were known for. 2-3 zone. We play all zones. We play a 1-3-1, 2-3 zone, 2-3 trap, 3-2 amoeba, a press. But we were known for zones. We never played man throughout the whole entire league. We never played man except this one time. And we just knew that we could throw this team off if we play man-to-man defense. And because they've been practicing for zone for the whole how to play against us, how to play us, and we messed them up so bad. We went out there, we showed a 2-3 zone for a couple of minutes, and then we hit them with a man-to-man, and it threw everything off for that team. That team didn't know what to do. And it was a team that will play as tooth and nail to the end, and we ended up beating them by like 15 points, 20 points, because they just weren't prepared for what we were going to throw at them, what we were going to do. So, and that's the thing about coaching, and that's the thing about what these people do. You know, it's about matching up. We may be talking zone right now, but Duke may come out and play man-to-man on this team.
You don't know.
You just don't know, and you have to be prepared for that. And that's the thing about, does it mess with you? Yes. It depends on what the scheme is. If I know a team is not a great zone, they've been playing against other opponents that are man-to-man the whole season, and you see them play a little bit of zone, teams that play a little bit of zone against them, but they don't have a great zone offense.
Yeah, they don't have a great grasp of it because they haven't done it consistently.
Then you hit them with that. You know, and that happens. You know, I've done that several times, even in boys. Like, we played the top 25 team, and that was ranked in California, and we beat them by playing. I knew that they weren't a good zone team, and we played zone against them and beat them. And they had no answer for it. So that's the thing about coaching and knowing your personnel. You got to know your personnel. You got to know what your players, you want to know how you can get the most out of your players. And that's what you see in this tournament with these coaches and their players. Loyola Chicago, that coach is incredible. He's getting the most out of his players. Nevada's team right there, he's going a 6-man rotation, but he's getting the most he can possibly get out of his players.
Muscle
and they carry him. And that's what it is. Knowing your personnel. When these guys recruit, they got to know their person. They're not just recruiting, I just want the top dog. Can that top dog adapt to my system and what I'm playing in? And if they can't, then there's no room for it.
Gonzaga has tied things up with Florida State 26 apiece, coming up on 5 minutes to play over at Staples. I agree, Keith. It's interesting insights, and this is what really separates teams who can make it to a Sweet 16 and into an Elite 8 compared with the programs who are one and done in the tournament or are just not there yet at that type of level. Let's switch gears now. Let's talk some NFL free agency. Let's talk a little Rams. Rams are rumored to be in the Ndamukong Suh sweepstakes, Keith.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Is Sue a player that's still a game changer in this league?
No.
Or is he just a name?
You know what? I'll say this. He was a game changer at once, but he's getting older now, and he can help you. He can definitely help you. And let me tell you, when you got a coach like defensive coordinator like Wade Phillips as your coach, and he's respected, and that whole team respects him, Ndamukong Suh's going to fall in line. That's a good addition for you. So, in that aspect, yes. I think it does help. I think it helps him more than hurt him. How it hurts him is any off-the-field issues, if he has, or penalties, ejections. He's known to play. He's known to be a dirty player, what people say.
Yep.
Personally, I haven't seen the last couple of years, the last 2 years. I think he's kind of mellowed out, kind of just played. It's like, yo, you start some stuff with me, I'm going to start it back with you.
Being in Miami can do that to you.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and L.A. could too. You know, he's in L.A. in La La Land. You know, everybody wants to come to L.A., you know.
But this Rams team, we can agree on, is ready to win in 2018.
They're ready to win
Dolphins.
now. Yes, they're ready to win now. And I think Ndamukong Suh wants to be a part of a team that's going, an organization that's going to win. And so I can definitely see them doing some things this year. I'm very interested to see what they do in the draft. Doing some more trades go down, because I do think with the loss of Sammy Watkins that I don't see that prominent receiver yet that they have, you know. So I want to see that. I want to see what happens in that aspect. I think defensively they're solid. They're there, but the loss to Tavon Austin, I think they need to get rid of him anyway. But that's a great piece. And then the loss of Sammy Watkins, I think that hurts you in a way. And I think you need to, because Sammy Watkins played big for him. And so I think you need to get a good receiver core in there. So hopefully they get some in the draft, or they know something we don't know.
It's disappointing as a Rams fan to see a guy like Watkins walk away. Last year, he comes in, you know, he was with the Bills, a lot of injury problems up there in Buffalo. He comes to LA, it looked like he had somewhat resurrected his career in a warm climate, in a good situation with a young, brand new head coach and a young quarterback. But he decides to move on. Like you mentioned, on the defensive side of the ball, they're just stacked. You have Aaron Donald coming back, the reigning defensive player of the year in the NFL. This guy was phenomenal last year. He continues to work this offseason like he's got everything in the world to prove. If they can add a Sue, that's just another addition, just more depth to the team. They have a lot of different guys under Wade Phillips, who you talked about, Keith, who have just bought into what they're doing defensively. And that's why they have the best defense right now in the NFC West Division. Offensively, Robert Woods comes back. You still have Ty Gurley, Jared Goff, who I'm really excited for in year 2 with Sean McVay and what they can do on offense with him. I think the Rams are building. Obviously, they got to maybe do something to add another guy on offense at the receiver position. But right now, to me, what were they, 11-5 last year?
11-5.
I think they are trending towards a 12-4 team in 2018. I think that's the direction they're going in. Even if they don't improve any more on offense, the defense is that good to keep them in every single game.
True.
That's the exciting part.
True.
Cooper Kupp is a guy, who was on special teams last year. Potentially he can do some things, maybe catching the ball for them on offense. Look out for him.
Yeah.
They have a couple different guys that they can kind of play around with as they move on from Tavon Austin, and just seeing where Jared Goff can go with the football.
I totally agree. I think Jared Goff, this is just going to look. He put in some great time last year, and he did well, and I think it's just about him getting comfortable, and I think now he's in that he knows. I think they know now that this is his team, and he knows that this is his team, and when you have a player like who just have to look over their shoulder and know that there's somebody else that's going to take your spot, and they just want you to do is improvement, it just makes you even get better as a team, as a player. So I strongly believe next year, I think I'm thinking the Rams are going to be the favorite of the NFC for the simple fact that the Chargers, not the Chargers, but the Eagles have their team has just been people just grabbing players left and right from their team. But you know a team that's really trying to really go for it too is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
A team who was really disappointing last year.
Yeah.
They have a lot to prove.
I mean, Jason Pierre-Paul going to the Bucs. You got Curry over there, who just fresh off a Super Bowl win, who was a D tackle for the Eagles, is over there now. I mean, they're going for it. And
very quietly too, somewhat under the radar.
Yes, they're going for it. But I gotta say, the Rams are the favorite this year, man. I'll put it like this: they got the best defense in the NFC.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. You think they're the favorite in the whole conference?
I'm picking them. I'm picking the Rams next year.
Yeah, it'd be hard not to with the defense. I'm with you on that. I just think that, to me, New Orleans brings back a team. Yeah, with Drew Brees, there's no more discussion about his contract. That's all done. He's going to be a Saint for life. We all know that. With the guys they've added and the fact now that the biggest problem for them has always been defense, they have that solidified. Again, if it wasn't for the Minnesota Miracle, they're playing in the NFC Championship game last year. Maybe they even beat the Eagles.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? I really like the Saints. To me, New Orleans is the favorite going in the next year, but the Rams are right there. I don't want to lose sight of the Eagles in this because they did win the Super Bowl, but there's just so much competition now in the NFC, and there's so many quality teams and quality quarterbacks and head coaching quarterback tandems now that the Eagles are more so in the mix than the favorite.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. You know what team I'm also interested in? I want to see what's going to happen is the Packers. What's going to happen to the Green? Did the Green Bay Packers just completely fall off the map? You know,
I think the window has closed for them.
I don't want to close it just yet because Aaron Rodgers, I just think is just a remarkable player.
And he is. The problem is with the injuries, and unfortunately, that front office has not supplied him with enough talent around him on offense, and we know defense has been a big hole for them for a few seasons now, probably since they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
They've had disappointments in the playoffs. Back in 2011, the upset to the Giants, that always sticks out when Green Bay won. They were like 14-2 or 15-1 that year. So they've had disappointments, and it's been in large part due to the defense being just not a well-rounded defense in all three phases, from the defensive line to the linebackers and the secondary positions. They just haven't had the guys. So I think the window has closed there, unfortunately. Look, Rodgers is still going to be Aaron Rodgers, but there's no more Jordy Nelson. He doesn't have that safety blanket anymore.
Yeah, losing that hurts.
Randall Cobb is getting up there in age. They've quickly become an aging football team here, and there's not a lot of youth. They haven't done much in free agency. They've lost guys. That's what they made the headlines here for. And it's going to be interesting to see them in the draft and who they decide to pick. And where do they go? Do they go offense? Do they go defense? A lot of questions in Green Bay right now, and to try and see where that franchise is going moving forward.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely gonna see what's gonna happen. I have to agree with you. When you look at the Rams, though, and you see what they have coming back this following year, you just can't count on you. I can't see them getting beat by the Seahawks this year, or who typically play them tough every year.
Seattle's going to have a losing record this year.
You think so? Yes, I think so too. I think they're in the rebuilding stage.
They are. The bottom's not going to drop out, but they're going to be more so 7-9 than 10-6.
Yeah, they're definitely in a rebuilding stage. But you look at teams like San Francisco. That's another team you have to be out for. I think is going to be a top dog. I think Richard Sherman's going to come replenish himself as I got a new chapter. He's going to come out on fire next year.
He's got a lot to prove. Coming back from the injuries, he's got a chip on his shoulder with how things went down in Seattle.
You're going to see how good Jimmy Garoppolo is this year, upcoming series. I mean, he ran off 4 games. But like I told you earlier, nobody really got much tape on him. Now there's some teams got some tape on him. It's not going to be the first half. Well, I'm going to be interested to see what does he do the second half of the season.
The thing with that, though, is there was tape on him in New England for those couple games.
It was 3 games. He played 3.
That was enough for some teams.
For some, but it's not still enough. You need, he's going to be going in with a new offense, things like that. You're going to see his habits and what he can do and what he can't do. 3 games ain't enough tape to pass around to the league. I think a little bit more. He got 4 games at the end of the season. People took some little bit of notes. But I think it's all going to come down to now is not just the first half, but that second half season, how he performs that second half. If he performs well in the second half, then you're going to see, okay, Jimmy Garoppolo is the real deal. That's what I think. I think it's because when you think about it, it's like anything. When you have a routine and everything, most teams, they're just trying to fill you out, see what you can do, what you can do. Let's throw this 3-4 defense. So let's throw this dime package at you. Let's throw these blitz at you. See how you react. But then once they get the tape and they realize, okay, he has trouble with corner blitz. Let's throw a corner. Let's disguise it and throw it at the second down. Let's throw a corner blitz at him. What he's not used to seeing. And then,
well, if you search for far enough, you're going to find something, right?
Yeah, and that's what you're going to see. And then it would be up to those adjustments.
Exactly, and then it would be up to him to counteract that. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be a top 5 quarterback in this league for the next 10 years.
Yeah, for sure.
You can write it down. What he has done, you can't teach it. His patience in the pocket, his comfort level is obvious when you watch him. He makes all the throws. He learned from the best. I mean, the best quarterback, the best head coach, one of the best franchises as far as being consistent in sports right now. It's hard not to like everything he does, and I look for San Francisco to come flying out of the gates this year, and it is going to be fun seeing them taking on the Rams when those 2 teams meet up this year at the Coliseum and then up at Levi Stadium in San Francisco. Those are going to be great matchups because who would have thought just over a year and a half ago, that San Francisco would already be this good already, and the Rams would already have surpassed Seattle.
Whoever thought that the Chargers would? I thought the Rams wouldn't surpass the Chargers. Because typically the Chargers are better than the Rams. I mean, you got Phillip Rivers as a Pro Bowl quarterback, and you would think that they weren't. But this year, the Rams clearly was a better team than the Chargers were.
The Chargers, I was actually in favor of them coming to L.A.
Really?
Because I thought they could use a change of scenery.
Yeah.
I mean, look, they were down in San Diego for 50 years plus, and this has not exactly been a winning franchise. I thought a change was good for them. Obviously, I'm in the minority on that one. Most people did not want it here in L.A.
I think most people didn't, and they didn't want it. I think the Charger even players,
it seemed that way.
It definitely seemed that way. I mean, come on, you got Phillip Rivers still living in San Diego and driving all the way to L.A. Still to
it wasn't ideal for them.
Yeah. So I think it's an attachment thing that they have, and I think something they need to get over is the fact that they're in L.A. But I want to see them do well next year. I want to see them in the playoffs. I think they were peaking at towards the end of the season. That I was like, well, the Chargers actually made a great run and almost got it. They were being a dangerous team.
At the beginning of the season, we were talking about Anthony Lynn being on the hot seat after starting 0-4. And then they're able to come back, and then we talked about how he should maybe get consideration for Coach of the Year.
Exactly.
It was, you talked about polar opposites during a season. The Chargers had that. Their MO in recent years has been they can't win big games.
That's true.
Or they come up just short.
That's true.
That's been the big problem with them. Can they get over the hump this year and win some of those close games? Can they finally find a way to, to beat Denver in Denver? And can they take care of home turf at home over at the StubHub Center?
Yeah.
Can they actually, if they're able to win some of these games, they maybe can get more of a home field advantage going over there?
Yeah.
Because we know when teams came in from out of town, they were just taking over.
Yeah.
They were just taking it over.
I mean, Philly came in.
Oh, my God. I mean, Eagles fans.
It was a Philadelphia crowd that day. I was like, gee.
Well, they took over both the StubHub Center and the Coliseum. Yeah. That fan base is almost the exception to it. But no, the Chargers got to win some of these close games next year. That's what it's all about. And look, you can blame it on the kicker who they released earlier in the season last year. He lost him the game in Denver. There were some just missed field goals in those first 3-4 games that cost them, due in part to costing them that 0-4 beginning of the season. So there's these areas in which they can improve in, and hopefully it's enough to get them over the top and to win some of these games. And you got to do it now while Phillip Rivers is still in somewhat of the latter stages of his prime.
Yeah.
You got to do it now, and now's the time to win for them. It's not like he's Jared Goff's age.
Exactly. I mean, Phillip Rivers, like you said, to me, the decline of his he's going at the end of the season. He's like Drew Brees. You know, Drew Brees is kind of towards the end. I'm gonna play the rest of my contract. However, there was something that did come out about Phillip Rivers. There was a negotiating his contract. So, you know,
I did see that. That did make the headlines.
That made headlines, and I don't know whatever he. You know, I'm pretty sure whatever he wants, they're going to give him whatever he wants, or try to make it, you know, worth his while. But I don't know. You know, that's the thing. It's, when you look at it, we think about these star players like Phillip Rivers, Tom Brady, the older quarterbacks, Drew Brees in the league. They're towards like the end of their careers. Do you do what a Belichick did and go up to Robert Kraft and say, I want to trade the best player and the best player probably ever that played the game, you know, quarterback, to start over, you know, look towards the future?
From an X's and O's decision, yes.
Yeah, do you do that, or do you roll with it? Because when you look at it, let's look at it like this. Let's look at it like this. I had this conversation earlier today with someone, and they gave me this example that I think is a good example. It goes back to like the Kobe Shaq days. Remember when Kobe Bryant they wanted to trade, you know, Kobe Bryant, that was a situation if they can trade Kobe Bryant, they trade Kobe, or they trade Shaq. If they traded Kobe, they probably would have got a lot more players, or when he was hot, a lot more players. They probably would have been in a situation where they would probably get, you know, some really good players for him. And then when he tore his ACL on that decline, it was like they couldn't get as much for him as what they would want, and so they went ahead and kept him. And so when you look at that, you look at it goes back to even my Odell situation. You have Odell Beckham was at his prime. Do you trade that and get some more was EGP, or do you keep them? Do you keep them and just you ride them out to the end of time until they can't even be tradable anymore?
It's a fun debate. It
and
really is.
That's why I go back with Phillip Rivers, because Phillip Rivers, here you are negotiating a contract, but Phillip Rivers on the decline in your career. Well, you look at it. Phillip Rivers is a great quarterback, right? When's the last time they've been to the AFC Championship? Since LT?
Long time ago.
LaDainian Tomlinson, that was the last time against the Patriots. I believe that was the last time.
That was the last time. That's what I'm saying. It was a long time ago.
It's been a long time. You haven't been winning the program and this and that. Is it time to let him go?
I think you definitely, you give the example of Belichick to Kraft, Anthony Lynn in L.A. here with the Chargers going to the owner. I think you have to do that. You have to do the process of it, because from an X's and O's standpoint, like I said earlier, it just makes sense because you want to play the percentages, and even if it's the greatest of all time, you still have to inquire about it. Now, you can't trade Tom Brady for obvious reasons, and that was proven to be the case. But Phillip Rivers, it's a little bit different. I think at the very least they have to get a succession plan going. They have to, because I mean, right now they have no clue. And that's my best estimate of it. They have no clue who the next quarterback is going to be.
They have none.
If you think about it, Phillip Rivers, is he the second greatest quarterback in the history of the Chargers behind Dan Fouts?
Absolutely.
It's got to be, right?
Absolutely.
I don't think it's even close. But I would definitely be open to maybe seeing what I can get for him. I mean, hopefully at least they're inquiring about it. Hopefully.
Yeah, I agree.
They have to at least do that, and just to obviously see what you can get. Talking about Kobe and Shaq back in the day, it was interesting. I was in favor of them trading Kobe at that point in time when they were debating that back in the early 2000s. And obviously they decided not to do that. They traded away Shaq to Miami, and the only notable player they got back who ultimately helped them was Lamar Odom in that trade. So, but the interesting thing is, though, was that Lamar Odom helped them to win a championship, not just one but two, and so did Kobe. And they actually made the right move ultimately to do that. It was actually the right move to trade away Shaq at that point in time. So it's just interesting. It can be somewhat of a hindsight situation. Obviously, if the player you trade away goes on to win a Super Bowl, in this case, if Phillip Rivers would, it doesn't work out. But if you trade him away and the guy you get winds up winning a lot of games for you and being ultimately very successful for your franchise, and if you win a championship, it's great. It just it's that type of thing. Either you're a genius or you're a dud.
Yeah.
It just depends. It's all about winning on the field at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
Phillip Rivers is a guy who I do think if he's got the players around him, which he never really has had throughout his career, he can really take a team deep in the playoffs. Possibly to the Super Bowl, I think. I think
so.
He's that caliber quarterback.
He is.
Unfortunately, he's never really had that opportunity except for when they went against the Patriots, which is over 10 years ago now.
Yeah. I mean, they just don't, to me, they just don't have the talent around him like other players. Like you put a Phillip Rivers on a Pittsburgh Steelers team. You put a Phillip Rivers on a Jacksonville team that
maybe they beat New England
in
the championship game last year.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right about that. That is the type of quarterback. Yeah, I mean, Jacksonville, right? I mean, now they're obviously married to Blake Bortles with giving him the contract this offseason, but before you gave him all that money, inquiring to L.A. about the availability of Phillip Rivers would be very enticing to me as a Jaguars fan. That would have been, because I agree, maybe that's the type of guy who puts him over the top. It really just makes you wonder. We talk about these different things and, certain things that management can kick around. Are they really doing it? Are the Chargers really doing it? And that's probably the whole problem in a nutshell with them is they're not really at that level of certain teams and inquiring about these different types of things.
Yeah. I mean, I just think, I think they need to start off fresh. I mean, you got Keelan Allen. You got some great players.
One guy. They could add more. I agree.
And Antonio,
Gates.
That's done. And I just think that they should start off. I think they need to start off fresh. I think this draft this year is probably important for the Chargers.
Very important.
I think you need to get a great kicker, but I think you need to get some playmakers out there for Phillip Rivers, because if you're going to keep him, then you got to get some playmakers out there for him. That's going to help him, or is what they say, add a couple more years to his career. I think you need that. I mean, he's still got the arm.
Absolutely. There was no drop-off in his performance last year.
No, it wasn't. He still got the arm to do it, but I just think you could just see the frustration on his face.
Oh, my God.
It's just ridiculous.
Classic. It's been like that for years now.
Yeah.
And you can't help but to feel for him.
Yeah.
You can't help but to feel for the man. I mean, he's doing everything in his power to will this team to some sort of success. And sometimes they are successful just based off of his sheer talent and will to win.
Yeah.
But more times than not, they haven't been, because it's a team sport, and one player is not going to be able to get it done for you consistently. But you're so right. I mean, you see that so many times. I mean, there's been so much frustration. I mean, this guy, for him to play for this franchise now for so long and to be able to really be a class act, he said all the right things for so long now. He's been somewhat comparable to Eli Manning, ironically enough, who the Chargers wound up selecting originally on draft day, and Eli, he cried a little bit So they had to trade him away. He didn't want to play for the Chargers, if you remember that one.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So, Philip Rivers, hats off to him, and he's done everything he can. Unfortunately, I don't think management can say the same.
Yeah,
they have
I
not
agree.
been able to give him everything that they can as far as providing players for him.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think they need to get. I think we need to get a better. They need to get a better system that can help them, and maybe some new players. But I mean, Philip Rivers he's the best they had in time, and I think if they want to do something, if they want to make a move, especially a jump this year, this upcoming season, then I think Philip Rivers should. Philip Rivers, first off, needs more money if he's going to deal with this stress. That they're
to start with, yeah.
Yeah, but
that's why they were talking about that, to maybe renegotiating his contract.
Yeah, so I think it's something they need to do. I think it's something that they need to get some more talent, or either get some more talent around him, or trade him to a better team.
They can start in this year's draft. They picked 17th overall. They can get him the help, and they drafted well last year, actually, if you think back to it. There are 3 first-round selections from last year, and actually, if you go back a couple years, have been Pro Bowlers. Joey Bosa, Melvin Gordon, Jason Verrett. They have drafted well in recent years, but the thing is they have not drafted well at the receiver position outside of Keenan Allen a few years ago.
Yeah.
That's where they have to improve on. There's no question about it.
Okay.
Behind the mic, coming to you live here on a Thursday night. Kings Cove, still a good crowd on hand for the March Madness games. Gonzaga continues to battle Florida State. And you also have Kentucky taking on Kansas State. Both games right now at commercial break. We'll take a break here as well. We'll come back on the other side. We'll continue NFL free agency discussion. We'll get into Tiger Woods on his comeback tour here in the world of golf. Everything else that's happening in the world of sports. Behind the mic, going into 9 o'clock Pacific time. Stick around.
Hi, I'm Danica
So,
Patrick, and
TMZ, I can get
watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing. But not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. 1 in 6. That little girl sitting alone at the playground, she can't play like the other kids. She doesn't have the energy because she's hungry. School lunch will be her only meal today. It breaks my heart that this is the reality in our country, but it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste. This food is then provided to families and children in need. Being a kid should be about using your imagination, learning, and having fun. These children shouldn't have to miss out on simply being a kid because they're hungry. To find out how you can help end childhood hunger in your community, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council. Everybody buckle up. Buckle up.
Let's go.
Buckle up.
Can we go to the store? Mom,
buckle
can we get
up.
some ice cream?
Everybody, buckle up.
A lot goes on in the car, but you're in control. So only move when you hear the click that says they're buckled in. Never give up until they buckle up. Learn more at safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Everyone is talking about healthcare these days. America spends twice that of other developed countries on our healthcare system, yet our health ranks near the bottom. How can we stop spending so much and getting so little? Shifting to a system based on primary care can help fix the problem. Patients with a primary care doctor live longer, healthier lives and are less likely to suffer from cancer, heart disease, or stroke. Primary care that is comprehensive and coordinated also saves money. Patients who have a primary care doctor spend 30% less on health care than patients who don't. States with a high number of primary care doctors have lower health care costs and higher quality care. Primary care can help make America healthy again. To learn more about the benefits of primary care, visit www.healthisprimary.org. This message is brought to you by America's Family Physicians.
Dave, what are you doing?
Just sending a gift to Dave 2037.
Who?
Me in the future.
I save a little money from every paycheck as a gift to Dave 2037, so he can spend it on things like anti-gravity boots or a hologram Doberman, something cool like that. I think Dave 2037 deserves it. He worked hard. What are you getting Steve 2037?
I guess I was thinking Steve 2037 would just fend for himself.
Well, all right, but don't expect to be borrowing my anti-gravity boots.
You want to have money in your future? You got to start saving now. Putting some money from every paycheck into a savings account or contributing to your 401k can make a big difference later. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free ideas and easy ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org.
Hey, let's just hope Steve 2037 doesn't get his hands on a cold time machine, because he is going to come back here and knock some sense into you.
This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
We're here early before they wake up. We stay late. We stay informed. We invest in the latest technology.
We take the time to train the next generation of doctors and nurses. We work together to make sure we heal their bodies and their minds.
We do this not because it's our job, but because this is about our veterans' lives. This is our mission. More than 300,000 of us working as one, together with families and loved ones. No matter where they live in this country, we'll be there.
We all come together and stand together to serve our veterans. We stand strong, united. Stand with us in caring for our veterans.
I'm more resourceful than I thought.
My suit can still make an impression.
My video games are still game changers.
And my lamp can bring others a bright future.
Because when I donate my stuff to Goodwill,
it helps fund job placement and training for people right in my community.
Now my stuff gets a second chance.
And will give someone in my community
a second chance too.
Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. That's goodwill.org. This message brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
We will never fully understand what we've asked of our military service members or their families, asking them to put themselves in harm's way, to endure it all. But we do understand that it's our turn, our duty, to keep them secure for the rest of their lives. Wounded Warrior Project long-term support programs help our most severely ill or injured veterans live independently, at no cost, for life, so that they might stand at ease. Join us at findwwp.org.
This is Behind the Mic with Brad Dalius.
Welcome back inside Kings Cove, Behind the Mic on a Thursday night. Lots of March Madness going on here around us. As we said, Florida State, Gonzaga battling out over at Staples Center. And you also have K-State currently up by 9, Keith, over Kentucky as those two roll along from Atlanta. Just a crazy night once again here in the world of college basketball. Before the break, we were talking a lot of NFL offseason free agency stuff, some Rams, some Chargers talk. How about this story, though, earlier today that was making headlines? The Bills' young receiver, Zay Jones, he was arrested for just being an idiot, a knucklehead, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And, ultimately charges were dropped in this case. We'll get into the details here in just a second, but it was a crazy story. You might have saw the headlines today on all the different outlets. And to talk about it now, we're now joined on the line by TMZ senior producer, Mr. Mike Babcock. Mike, what's going on? We appreciate the time. How are things tonight?
Brad and Keith, how you guys doing?
Doing great, man. Appreciate you coming on. So, Mike, tell us about this story about Zay Jones, man. I know it's pretty crazy, especially with, the draft coming up and everything going on. What happened here?
Yeah, this is one of the more bizarre situations that I have ever seen doing this job, and you do see a lot of crazy stuff. Zay Jones, he's a young receiver. He's a 22-year-old kid with the Bills, just finished up his first year in the NFL. And Monday night, he was hanging out with his brother Caleb, who's a Minnesota Viking, along with some friends. They were on the 30th floor of an apartment building in downtown L.A., and something went very wrong for Zay. He tried to hurl himself outside of a 30-story window, and thank God he wasn't successful. But it was just a wild situation, and a lot of this was caught on a surveillance camera. And the video is absolutely wild. If you haven't seen it, I would say go to TMZsports.com and look at this video. You see a Zay Jones completely naked, no clothes on, his brother trying to wrestle him, trying to hold him, and you see Zay just fling his brother off to the side, and he goes into a dead sprint. And this part is not captured on video, but we talked to witnesses. He tried to throw himself outside of a 30-story window. Didn't make it through the window, thank God. Don't even want to think about what would have happened if he did get through the window. But he got all cut up. He got bloodied. Police were called. They came. They arrested him for felony vandalism. They took him to jail at about Monday, 11:30 p.m. He sat in jail until Wednesday morning at around 4:30 p.m., so spent about a day and a half in jail and was ultimately released. And like you guys said, the latest thing today, and very fortunate for Zay, is that the L.A. District Attorney has said that he is not going to be pressing charges against Zay. And it was a felony, so he's going to be actually facing some time behind bars, years behind bars. But fortunately for him, he will not be charged. So legally, he is free and clear.
Wow, that's insane. I mean, if you, is the NFL doing anything about it, or did you hear anything about the NFL? Are they going to do anything about this? Or
yeah, the NFL, they said they are looking into the matter. Like I said, now he is not going to be facing any penalty, as far as jail legally. Everything that I've heard about this kid is that he's a good kid and he seems like a smart guy. The actions that you see on this videotape, it doesn't look like somebody who was in their right mind. Something was off. Something wasn't right about him that night. So I don't know, not to speculate, I don't know if it's a situation, he had something going on, in his personal life, but he wasn't his normal self that night. So I don't know if he's able to explain that away and then doesn't face any discipline from the NFL, but it's just a strange situation.
TMZ's Mike Babcock joining us on the line here behind the mic, talking about this crazy, bizarre story from Bills receiver Zay Jones today. Charges were dismissed against him, and Keith, as you just mentioned a moment ago, perhaps the NFL, the league office will take action here. Maybe they won't. We'll have to see, but this is just a bizarre.
A lot of times in these situations, I think the league, the NFL, likes to let the legal process play out first, and then they will follow, the cops or the district attorney once they make their determination.
Yeah, this takes the cake easily, Keith, right, for the most bizarre thing this offseason so far.
You know what really is bad about this? It's just the fact that you have this is a young guy who plays for the Buffalo Bills. They just lost Tyrod Taylor. And he's gone for the season.
Well, it's Buffalo, right?
Yeah, Buffalo, right?
That's what
it's like it's
Buffalo,
nothing to do with Buffalo. And then you got to it has to be, I know for him, hopefully he wasn't on something. We don't know that. We don't know if he was on anything or anything like that. But you know who else it affects in the case? It affects Caleb Jones. Because it's like, this is your brother, and this is going on. And the video on TMZ Sports is gnarly. If you've seen the video, it's crazy. It's blood everywhere. I mean, he seriously could have hurt himself and killed himself. And that had you.
He could have killed himself.
Yeah, and I think what it does is you have to think. What you start thinking about is, do the Bills part ways from a person like that? That's what's interesting. Have they spoke to you about anything like that, Babcock? Have you guys talked to the Bills organization at all? Have they been?
Yeah, I talked to the Bills Tuesday afternoon, shortly after we published the video, and at that point they were just trying to gather information. So they put out a statement, but it was a very generic statement. I think everybody is trying to get to the bottom of this because, hopefully there's nothing wrong with him. But if there is something that needs to be addressed, I think you want to address it because forget about the play on the field. You want to make sure that the kid is okay, and he's only 22 years old. He's so young, has so much life ahead of him. You just want to make sure if something is wrong that it gets addressed.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Jones only been in the league here for just over a year. The Bills picked him in the 2017 draft in the second round, and he had a great college career at East Carolina as well. He set an FBS record with almost 400 career catches. I mean, this is a guy, obviously, who has a big background in football and has been successful. It's just, I mean, we've seen different players who come into the NFL, and obviously it's not for everyone, right? And sometimes players can mature quicker than others, and sometimes not. But this could be just something totally separate in itself, right? And, we don't want to speculate, but if there is some kind of mental health problems or something that, hopefully he's able to get some kind of help to try and get everything right there.
Absolutely. He comes from a family. His dad won 3 Super Bowls with the Cowboys. Like you said, his brother Caleb's in the NFL. So this guy comes from a football family. He's been around the game his whole life. But I think regardless, it's a lot. You're 22. You're thrust into this world with all this money and fame, and I think sometimes just on a basic or on a broad level, we don't understand that this is a lot of stress for these guys to handle at this young age.
Yeah, totally agree. Let me ask you this one thing, Mike, because I know you guys have been on this story the whole time. Have you guys talked to any of the players on the team at all? Have they said anything about this?
No, I have not talked to anybody on the team. I've seen people on social media express their concern and their support for him. His dad actually came out and said that he had his son. He was with his wife, so they is with his family right now, and they said that he's going to be okay. So it seems like he has a good support system around him, which I think is important in a time like this where, this guy's been celebrated his whole life, and it's a tough video to watch. I don't know the guy, and it was tough for me to watch this video. It's upsetting to see somebody like that. So I can't imagine, what he's going through right now, what he's thinking, that this is kind of unfolding in front of the whole world. So he needs that support right now, I would imagine.
TMZ senior producer Mike Babcock, he is on this story, man. Let me tell you, I mean, he's got the pulse of it. And, Mike, as far as different stories that you have covered, does anything compare to this that you've covered throughout your career?
I mean, you see a lot of crazy stuff. I worked, very closely with the Ray Rice situation, and that was obviously shocking. I got to be honest, I don't think that anything has kind of surprised me as much as this, where you have a guy who's a really good NFL player who's, in public with no clothes on and tries to throw himself out a window. I really don't think that anything has reached this level of craziness.
What else do you say? I mean, just crazy stuff. It is the NFL offseason. There is no offseason in the NFL, right? There's always something going on, whether it's stuff on the field, transactions, or just crazy things like this. The NFL never sleeps.
How fun is it's true. How fun is the free agent stuff, though? It's
been fantastic. So we talk about the Rams. I mean, this is a Rams squad that is ready to win here in 2018, Mike. I mean, they're going to be one of the prolific teams in the NFC and probably the favorites in the NFC West. It's unbelievable stuff.
Especially with the moves they've made in the offseason. And, everyone wants to find the next Sean McVay now. They got themselves a great coach. It's a good time to be a Rams fan.
It is. And then you go down to your Giants, and, it hurts Jason Pierre-Paul.
JPP.
Yeah, they did. They traded JPP today. But, it's going to be interesting to see where they go next. We've had discussions, me and you, off before about do they get rid of Eli? Do they go with Eli Manning, or do they trade Odell Beckham? And it looks like they're going to stay with those guys, and it looks like they're going after the boy, Saquon Barkley. So, that's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Every time I can't decide, I switch 5 times a day if I want them to take a quarterback, or do I want them to take Barkley, or now do I want them to take Chubb to replace JPP? I cannot decide who I want them to take. But they're in a good spot at 2.
Yep.
Mike Babcock, follow him on Twitter at Mike J. Babcock. Watch TMZ Sports weeknights on FS1. Hey, Mike, we appreciate the time. Enjoy the rest of the night.
Guys, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it, Brad and Keith.
Take care, Mike.
Take care, guys.
All right, bye.
There he goes once again. TMZ senior producer Mike Babcock on the trail.
Yeah,
got the pulse of that story.
It's a trip of the things they get, man. It's like when you look at it, those people at TMZ, like they're Harvey and they're producer Harvey, and then the guy who runs TMZ Sports, Evan Rosenblum. Those guys, they really stay up on those stories, and they get those guys out there, and they really work together as a team to get as many stories as they can, and they find out details and what's going on, and they just get a jump on things. So it's really interesting when you have them on the phone and talking to you. They really know this stuff inside and out, and it's great to have them on to get that information, and especially for you Bills fans out there or anybody who's concerned about Zay Jones. It was great. I would think it was great just to have them on to even discuss and talk about it. Here he is, a good kid. I honestly thought that the kid got in a fight with his brother at one point. I wasn't really reading it. I thought he got in a fight with his brother, but it wasn't even nothing to do with that. It's what it seems like. So it looks like they're hashing out everything, and hopefully everybody gets to the bottom of it. But the great thing is, like he said, is the safety of the player. At least he's safe right now. So.
Yeah, that's what it's about. It starts there, and like I said before, we don't know all the details about it specifically, but whatever it is, hopefully the situation works itself out for the better. That's all we can hope at this point. Yep. Florida State currently a 6-point lead over Gonzaga as they come down the stretch over at Staples Center. Over in Atlanta, it's 52-44. Kansas State still maintaining an 8-point lead. We'll see if they can keep that all the way through or if Kentucky has a run in them late in the game. You want to talk a little Tiger Woods?
Yes, sir. Tiger Woods, y'all. It's all good, y'all.
Another top 5 finish, man. I mean, I know you were talking about how you've been following him more closely now.
Yeah.
I have as well. I'm excited to watch golf again on the weekend.
It is. It's definitely exciting to watch golf again. And you know what? Let me tell you something. Everybody, including myself, getting on Tiger, not believing in him, and Tiger's done this and that. It made me sit back and rethink about the whole situation that's going on with him. Is that, his back injury was really bad, and I would say shame on me for the fact that I've had a back injury, and I know that it hurts. You can't do anything when your back is hurting. When you hurt your back. So, and it does take time to heal and get back into form and things. And on top of that, golf is not just it's not a physical game, and you're using your back and things like that, but it's also a mind game. And I think his mind just wasn't right. But now he's dialed in, and it's a trip that players now are really like the McRoys of the world. They're really now looking back here he comes. It's like he's been starting. Yeah. Before it was like, okay, he's playing, all right, he's not getting there. But Tiger, you can tell in even his interviews, he was like, yeah, I like where I'm at right now, but he's very patient with it. It's kind of like Michael Jordan when Michael Jordan came out of retirement from baseball. And he was like, my leg's not there just yet, but they'll get there. They're getting back. And that's kind of like a mind game to player because you're like, when is he going to just erupt? And you're starting to gradually see it. He had a lead. He had a lead the last tournament he was in. He had a lead going into the last round, and he fell off. I think it was hole 16 hurt him, but then he came back strong at the end. Towards the end, it was just someone shot better, and so it's, to me, I think he's in the right position going into the Masters. And, hey, man, I'm not counting Tiger out going into the Masters. I can. Some people picked him as being the favorite to win. I mean, it's not far-fetched, but I'm going to say this. If Tiger Woods is in the top 5 going into Sunday night, watch out.
Watch out is right. I think you hit the nail on the head, Keith, about Tiger's back injury and how I don't think people realized how severe it was. I don't think anyone really did except for him and his doctors maybe.
Yeah.
It was pretty severe, and the pain was there, and now there's no more pain. He said that consistently now for months and for weeks, and the fact that he's been able to play in several events recently and not have any pain, not have any reoccurrence, is great news because he doesn't have to worry about that anymore, and he can just go out and play his game. He's talked about how he has to kind of reinvent himself, as all the great ones do at certain points in time. He's got to find different ways to win. I thought it was very interesting to hear him say that after Sunday at Bay Hill, and how he continues to be optimistic. And that leads me to believe that there's a storm coming, and sooner versus later.
Yeah.
And, when you define him being back in the sense of, is he ever going to be like he was before that stretch? I don't know if we'll see that necessarily, but he's back in the sense of contending, and I think I still don't rule him out that, he could definitely win majors still. Yeah. I think it's there. It's going to be a different way of seeing it, perhaps, like he's talked about, different shots here and there. He's not driving the ball well off the tee, but he never really did that well consistently. No. It was always his short game that made up for it, his amazing ability to putt extremely well, which that's been on display a bit, making that 70-foot putt on Thursday to kick off the Arnold Palmer Invitational. So you see some flashes of things that he can do, and the flashes are being more consistent now. I just look at the finishes. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. Top 10 finish, top 5 finishes. It is the trajectory of it is moving towards potentially a win here in the near future. You don't want to see him peaking too early, which he's not doing, and we'll see. It's you got to like the fact that he's been very successful at the Masters in the past. Obviously, at Augusta, that golf course there. At Bay Hill, he's won that 8 times, I think, over the years. So he plays well at these places that he's familiar with, and I think that's a good way to ease him back into it here. And he'll have that again coming up soon at the Masters. So it's great to see. It's great to see him competitive. I agree also on the fact that there is that looking over the shoulder effect with guys like McIlroy, Dustin Johnson, a lot of the young guys who haven't seen him or just heard about him, and it's definitely there for the Sergio Garcias of the world, but at this point those guys are probably used to it. But it's very, very interesting. Nota Begay III, who played with Tiger at Stanford, was interviewed recently on the Dan Patrick Show earlier this week, actually, and talked about how he's talked with Tiger and how there is this sense of Tiger he's not trying to be anything that he's trying to adapt. Yeah. He's not living 10 years ago, which is good because you have to be able to change. And it's just very interesting the conversations that the two of them have had and how Tiger is open to different advice now. Yeah. With certain things and being able to adjust his swing and adjust certain things around the golf course. And you got to love it. You got to love it as a sports fan.
Yeah, you do, and I think what it is now him being open. That's what's really helping his game, being open to people giving him advice because, look, it's in his younger days, you can tell he doesn't play, he plays more strategic when he's on the course. He's not playing as aggressive as he was in the beginning. And I think when in the beginning of this year, when he was younger, he was playing more aggressive, going for those, he would tee off, but he would go for that second hit. He'll probably be more aggressive towards getting to the hole.
Oh yeah, let's go for the green in the second shot.
And then I think what you see now, I think what the problem was, I think he was trying to keep that same type of game plan the way he was when he was younger, when he was starting to get towards him getting older. And I think that was frustrating, what leading him to getting hurt, number one. And number two, I think it's the same. It's like not changing your game to what your body is, how your body is right now, how you're getting older. You have to make adjustments. It's the same thing in basketball. Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan, all those guys. Remember how they had to change their game? The beginning of the year, the beginning of the time when they were playing, they were high flying, above the rim dunks, and then what they did was they start to get older. They realize I can't do those same things. Physically, I can't do those. My mind may be saying I can. My body's like, no. So I have to listen to my body. And now I'm going to change it up and master the short game. the short jump shots, establish a 3-point shooting, stroke, those type of things. And I think that's the thing with Tiger Woods now is like, you know what? I'll get to the hole. I'll try. All I want to do is par. I'll just try to par. If I birdie, then great. If I birdie or I eagle, then great. But all I want is just a par, and that's it. If I can just par, I'm content with that. But I think what you end up finding himself doing when all he wants to do is par on certain things, is he ends up birdieing sometimes because of certain hit, the way he hit the ball.
That's true.
So
it works in his favor.
So it's great to see that, because you can see like I looked at his scorecard the last Arnold Palmer tournament that
this
he just
past
finished
weekend.
This past weekend, and it was nothing but pars, maybe like 2 bogeys. But nothing but pars, and then you'll see a birdie. Then you're like, oh, he birdied that one. But you can tell he was trying to par that one. And I watched him on a hole, I think the 8th hole. He had parred that, he had eagled that hole, not eagled, he had birdied that hole. But you could tell he was like trying to just par it, and he ended up.
Yeah, you're totally right. And you brought up a great point. I think it was Saturday. It was in the third round this past weekend that he had a chance, going into the 16th hole to hit another low score number. And he was threatening to take the lead or right around there. And obviously he kind of hit a rough stretch. Had a bogey or two towards the end.
16th hole.
Yep. So you're right. It's like right there. He's so close, and you just got to be, just a couple things to fine tune as he goes forward. I think the question is if the Masters, let's use that as an example because it's coming up. If it gets into a tournament, we've seen Masters in the past where 6-7 under par can win it, maybe 8 under par. But some years we really get crazy scores like 10, 11, 12 under par. If it is one of those years where it gets into double digits under par that you have to get to win, can he go neck and neck with some of these guys? Consistently, because that's what it's probably going to take.
Yeah.
I think that's the big question here, and that's what we're all waiting to see. Can he post that type of score if it's needed, if it's called upon?
And it's not just that, but also, will he do it?
Right, that's what I'm saying.
It's like it's not like, okay, I'm neck and neck with this guy, I'm gonna go for it. Is he gonna go back to now I'm gonna be that aggressive Tiger and I'm gonna go for it? Is he gonna go to that, or he's still gonna say the same where it's like, well, look, I'll try to par, but if I don't, then at least I'm there, I'm close. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what you think you get with these other guys is like, the Jordan Spieths and Spieth and Rory McIlroy. I keep going to McIlroy. McIlroy. When you get to those guys, they play aggressive golf, man. They don't.
Yeah, they do. That's what I'm saying. Like
they don't. They really don't. They like to step out the box.
They do, and that works a lot of the times.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, is I feel if he's got to chase those guys, forget about it.
Yeah.
But if he's neck and neck with them, that's where you have the Tiger effect that can come out.
I think so.
And I think as good as Jordan Spieth is, and he's an amazing talent, so is McIlroy.
I think they're intimidated by him.
A little intimidated, absolutely, right? And naturally, you're going up against one of the greatest of all time. There's definitely that intimidation factor.
Yeah.
It is absolutely there, and I wouldn't be surprised if those guys fold a little bit.
Yeah.
Not because it's their fault, but just because against who they're going up against.
I mean, anybody who plays them right now, first it was like, oh, great, he's back there. Everyone's happy to be back.
Yeah, it was, okay, Tiger's
but
bad.
Now
great. He's not going to really do anything.
But now when you see what he's doing, then you're like, okay, they look at him now as he's an opponent. He's not Tiger Woods, the fan, anymore. But you know what's hilarious is now, like, people are so happy what's going on that there was a headline on ESPN today that says Tigers fans sent his doctor a thank you gift.
I saw that.
And that's hilarious to me. It's like, they're so thankful for the return because, Tiger did change the game of golf. And what they sent him some chocolate-covered strawberries.
Yeah. Isn't that great?
That's great.
That was going to be my final thoughts tonight, by the way. I read that earlier today. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
And it's true, though. I mean, it's you got to chuckle out of it. It is funny, but that's the effect he's had on sport fans and especially golf, because golf was just dying for years for a player to come along like him, as has been well documented now for some time. and he's just had such an effect on people, and he's always been that person that you would want to root for in sports. And even after everything that's happened with him off the golf course now, I think he's as likable as a figure in sports as there ever has been.
Yeah.
I don't think that's wavered. Now, for some people it has. I understand that. I know that. There's always going to be a fraction that just can't get over certain things, and, you know, that's just how it rolls for some people. But the majority of fans, I think the majority of sports fans I can speak for, are very excited about this comeback and are rooting for him like they've always have been.
Yeah. Hey.
You see the clips, right? I mean, ESPN, CBS will, they'll soon be running the promos for the Masters coming up. You see the highlights from over the years, the chip in 2005 with the little Nike wink at the end when the golf ball rolled in. As a fan, you can't wait to get that back. You want those moments back in sports and in golf. We miss that. We haven't seen that in the majors in a long time.
Exactly.
Especially at the Masters. It's been a very long time since we've seen that type of magic there. And if he can bring that back, the patrons will be out in full force, as they usually are, but it'll be even more so this year.
Absolutely. Well, hey, I'm pulling for him. It's going to be an exciting Masters.
Yes.
I cannot wait. Also, Phil Mickelson, I want to see how he does well.
Lefty.
The lefty, I want to see how he does out there. It's going to be good to see him and Tiger out there. But I'm ready for the Masters, man. I mean, the NCAA is about to come to the end in another week or so. I don't want it to end, but it's going to end soon. But we still got some great games going on right now. I think we got a close one right now with K-State and Kentucky. Kentucky's battling back.
The Cats have cut it to one.
And I have to tell you, man, when you look at Kentucky again, they're freshmen, but they're really not freshmen.
It's true.
They're freshmen, but they really ain't freshmen. Like, Calipari knows what he's gonna do. He's like, I don't know. Have you seen I don't know if you've seen the movie Blue Chip, but in the Blue Chip episode, there's the coach goes in and he's recruiting one of the kids, and they're in the church, and they're like the Baptist church, and so it's
of course in the South.
So he's sitting there and he's clapping and he's all off rhythm, but he's like, I love Jesus too. I love him too. He's trying to get who was the time Neon DeBow, who was Shaquille O'Neal. He's trying to bring him onto his team, and Calipari reminds me of him so much because Calipari's not afraid to go into the projects and recruit a kid. I can tell you that right now. That's one thing about him.
No,
and he gets them kids, man. And they play for him. To me, he's like a player's coach.
Yeah.
And it's a trip to see how he knows his kids. He knows, even though when they weren't ranked, he said, okay, they're not ranked, but when they get in, they go. He knows in the back of his mind. He played that. Well, we just young. We're gonna get there and this and that. But he's saying he's giving you that regular old coach talk. But really, he's like, now watch you see what they're gonna do now. And it's like, it's impressive to me. Look at them right now. It's 56-55. And 3 minutes left in the game.
Calipari gets this rap as this egomaniac, control freak head coach, which may be true to maybe a certain extent, but I feel like he doesn't get the credit he deserves for being, like you said, that player's type of coach, which he was at UMass, he was at Memphis, and he's been that, obviously, here at Kentucky as well. I just don't think he gets credit for that. Obviously, there's always been controversy that has surrounded him, with potential things that he's known or not known at certain points in time. There's been sanctions levied down to schools that he's been at, both schools actually, both with UMass and Memphis. But again, we've discussed this before. When coaches know certain things at certain points in time, if they know it, they don't know it, we're never going to know. It's almost impossible for us to judge that, to analyze that, because we just don't know. We don't know the certain things unless they're proven to be blatantly true. So I just think there's been a lot of unfair criticism of him over the years, and I think you bring up a great point. He really has not gotten credit as that player's coach, which he has proven to be, and all his players, they love playing for him.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I hope that I really do hope in that aspect of things. I really do hope that they can, it's going to be interesting what they do. I mean, to this point, right where they're at right now, is great. But Calipari, man, he's got a chance, man. He's got a shot to get these guys to get all the way to the Final Four and to the national championship. And I think they can get through K-State, which they're battling with, and I think he's got a great chance of winning it. So we'll see.
Final thoughts as we wrap up this show tonight.
My final thoughts is going to go to Johnny Manziel. I mean,
Johnny Football. Johnny
Football is back, and it's fortunate about his career, the drinking and things like the partying and stuff like that, that he, some players need to learn, and football was taken away from him for a while because of those things, off the field issues. But he has been caught out many a times out, and Botox has gotten him, and he's really been living a straight lane, for the last for a year or so. And he's really trying to show that he's mature, and he has, he's gotten married, and, he's talking about he's had to change life. And sometimes that really works for people, and it's great to see that you saw some 13 teams looking at 13 teams out there actually seeing him throw the ball today. So a lot of teams are giving him that. Looks like they're giving him that second chance, and they're going to see what he's about. I mean, you have teams like New England Patriots for one, who shoot, they do need a backup quarterback. That'd be crippin'. Patriots picked up Johnny Football, but
can you imagine Johnny Manziel in New England?
Let me tell you this. I really, it's not far fetched. You know why? He needs somebody like Bill Belichick to keep him in a straight line. That's the type of program he needs to go to. You're
right about that.
And he needs to go to some highly respected program like that where people are about football and just football. Tom Brady's about football. That's it. Yeah. Why not learn against one of the best? So that you got Chicago, Los Angeles Chargers, who we just finished talking about them, about the Phillip Rivers whole thing. You got New York Giants. You have the Chiefs, the Jets, Oakland Raiders. I mean, Tennessee, Detroit, Jacksonville, Carolina, Tampa. I mean, look at all the teams that came to go watch this guy. 13 teams.
Lots of shooters.
I mean, that's telling me that, look, we're interested now. I think you learned your lesson. We're interested, and he's out there and he's slinging that ball. I heard he did pretty well. So it's great to see that, man. Johnny, I hope he gets another shot.
I think he will. And if not, hey, there's always the XFL or the Alliance of American Football. And there's lots of options coming here down the stretch. Lakers, by the way, fell tonight to New Orleans, 128-125 on the road. Like you said, Keith, no defense there at all. But a team that is happy tonight would be the Hornets, who Kemba Walker dropped 46 tonight, Keith.
Ooh, and he had the White last night with 36 and 30?
It's just going off. He's been crazy. They won tonight, Charlotte did, by 61.
Wow.
61 points.
That's insane.
They beat Memphis 140-79. Kemba Walker, to me, is one of the ultimate March Madness players of all time.
Oh, yes.
For that run that they went on in 2011.
Oh, yes.
6 overtimes against Syracuse in the Big East tournament. Back when the Big East was the Big East and was still a thing. And they go on that run in the tournament. So Kemba Walker is, still going off here in 2018. Just on a different stage. But he loves the month of March, obviously.
He does. He goes off, man. Let me tell you, I actually spoke to Kemba Walker. And the year they went to the national championship, they didn't go to the national championship that year, I don't believe. I think he got out. They early Final Four or something like that. But he was at the Wooden Award. And I actually spoke to him and his assistant coach. And he's a very humbling guy. Like, really nice guy. We talked a little bit, and he was excited about his team, but he was very humble. It wasn't like a stuck-up guy, but he was always listening. He would listen to people, and that's what his consistent coach was saying. He was like, what I like about Kemba Walker is that he listens and he takes in information, and he really actually considers it. Like, he really will work on it. He's not one of those person that just blows you off. Or, like, if you give him some advice or something, he sees something, he doesn't just blow a person off. And I really actually got that. It was at the Wooden Award. We all sat around. It was like dinner. It was like, also, who else was there? I think it was not Brittany Griner. Brittany Griner wasn't there. It was, who's the player that used to play for Ohio State? Gerard.
Greg Oden?
No, Gerard Serlinger.
Oh, Sullinger.
Sullinger.
Oh, yeah.
He was there, and Candace Parker was there. It was a good dinner. But back to what I was saying, Kemba Walker is a very humble guy, and hats off to him, man. He's at the right place where he needs to go. Michael Jordan's underneath Michael Jordan. He's doing his thing. And I told you last night about Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard's at the right spot now.
Yeah.
And you can see they're happy. But I hope they make a run in the playoffs.
57-51, Florida State's got a 6-point edge over the Zags. They got 6 minutes to play. Maybe upset alert over at Staples Center. And with 1 minute and 14 seconds to play, Kansas State with a 1-point lead over Kentucky as they come down the stretch. March Madness continues to roll along. Both these games are trying to produce Elite Eight winners tonight. They will do that. And, it's going to be a great weekend of Elite Eight basketball. We can't wait to take it in. The Final Four will be all set when we're back on the air next week. Can't wait to talk about it as we'll be back at Grunyon's next Wednesday night. Great show tonight. Big thanks to Mike Babcock from TMZ Sports for calling in. Thanks to everyone who came out here at Kings Cove. For Keith, I'm Brad. Keep living the dream. We'll talk to you next week.